Hello everyone, welcome back. This corn's coming up. It's been planted 7 days, which typically this time of year it'd be up a lot quicker than that, but it's been abnormally cool this past week. But it's coming up. This strip in between the potatoes and the corn, basically from that light pole there over, is the next round of corn we got to plant. So what we're going to do today, and the ground's just barely dry enough. We've got some weeds. We got some Dock and Johnson grass and all sorts of sorted goodies growing in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the 9-2, since I'm already hooked to it, and I'm going to rip this up real good, and then I'm going to take the discars and chop it up really good. That's the plan. And we're gonna later on in this video, I'm gonna talk to you about planting dates on corn and stuff, and you know, give you something to think about staggering the plantings and stuff. But right now we're gonna try to get this ripped up. You can see it's pretty weedy, it's pretty rank, it needs some work. So let's see what we can do with it. Here we go. Okay, that looks a lot better. I've said before, if you can catch ground as it's drying, just as it's dry enough to work and continuing to dry, that is the best time for it to work up. something about the process of it drying makes it come apart better. But what we'll do now, I was going to run a disc over it, but there's enough moisture down in it, I'm afraid I'll pull up clods. So I'm gonna let it lay there for a couple of days. Then I run a disc over it to chop up this plant residue. Chop it up, maybe go over it 2 times with the disc, and then broadcast fertilize and incorporate it in with that spring tooth and smooth it up for the planter and then plant it. Now, that corn's been planted a week. I'm gonna plant this, it'll be planted approximately 10 to 14 days later. Now, when you're planting corn or anything, it'll give you dates to maturity. You know, and we'll use this as an example. Say your corn's 90-day corn. So if you plant like mid-April, early, chances are it's going to take more than 90 days because it's cold. So, you know, it may push out to 95 to 100 days. So if we start planting in mid-April, we plant mid-April, same variety, 90-day. We plant at the end of April. That at the end of April will mature almost as quickly as that in the middle of April. So you got to keep that in mind. And then we plant mid-May, that corn's going to mature even quicker. So it's going to kind of condense it up. So from about mid-May to about mid-June, or the end of June, that corn's going to mature in about its 90 days. Once we get to about mid-June, to the end of June to the middle of July, we start shortening back down because we're going to start losing daylight and temperature on the back end as we near harvest, so it's going to start taking longer. So when you're laying out your plantings, you got to keep that in mind. You got to keep in mind that, okay, this is supposed to be 90-day corn, but because I'm planting it early, it's going to take longer to mature, or I'm planting it real late, it's going to take longer to mature. So all of that factors in to having that continuous supply, which is what I'm after. Now, if I was doing like a commodity corn where I want to harvest it all at one time, of course you want to plant it as close to all the same time. But where I'm wanting to stretch it out and supply corn through a longer period, I've got to kind of look at that. And it's that way with anything. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, that kind of thing will make you, our potatoes are starting to look a little better. That kind of thing will make you a much better farmer. A lot of people, you know, like, what can make me a better, what, you know, always looking for advice in farming to improve their operation. Number one, experience. No amount of type of variety, no amount of equipment or chemical or anything can make up for experience. And if you're a young or a beginning farmer just starting out into it, keep records. I planted corn, or I planted this, these were the conditions that year, and this is the result. And you know, be willing to gamble. If you gamble on something and it works out, pay attention to what the conditions were, that the weather was, you know, the variety was, and everything, because it may just be one or two small factors in there between success and failure. Same if it don't work out, what happened, you know, that type of thing. Keeping up with that and building a library of either notes or experience will go a long way for any farming operation. You know, well, we plant such and such time. We always try to plant pumpkins mid-June. They seem to do better for us mid-June. They mature when we need them mature, etc., etc. We may go a little earlier or a little later, depending on weather conditions. Now it's been a real wet spring. It may turn off and be real dry. That could be a problem for some of these later crops. It may be a problem for some of the earlier crops. When you plant something and it's real wet, a lot of times they don't put on an extensive root system. And then it turns off dry, they don't have enough roots to obtain what moisture and nutrients they need. On the flip side of that, if you plant stuff and it's dry, they'll put on a lot more roots in most cases, looking for water and nutrients. And then when they do get water, they take a lot more of it up and they grow more vigorously. Stuff like that. That bank of experience and knowledge that you build up over years of doing it, or just a few years of doing it and paying real close attention to every detail, can make you a better farmer. And farming, like a lot of things, in the details. It's just like prepping this seed bed here. The better I have this seed bed prepped, the better chance we have of having a good germination, a good stand of corn. A little more work, a little more meticulous work, getting it just right, or to the best you can. Now, if you're running out of time to get it planted and the weather's pushing you, you do the best you can. You strive for perfection, but you know, if you come up a little short, sometimes you have to. And knowing what you can, you know, if I'd have came in here, weather pushing me and everything the way this looked before I got started, and said, the heck with it, I'm gonna plant it in here, I gotta go. You know, knowing whether or not that'll work, it can also make you more successful. And usually knowing whether or not it'll work is because you tried it once and it didn't work. Or you may have tried it a couple of times, it didn't work. Or it did work. So, you know, that's very important in farming as in everything else. So, where are we at? We're down to about 4 more acres of planting. So our planting season has run from mid-April, and it's going to run up until probably the second week of July. I'm going to try to plant this next week, and then probably 7th, 8th, before the 10th of July, plant the remaining corn. We're going to try to plant the pumpkins, the other patch of pumpkins, as quickly as we can. And then of course we got cabbage, and we'll set them, transplant them when the plants are ready to go in the ground, which I don't know when they'll be. We don't even have that ground turned yet, but it's a sandy river bottom. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. But that's kind of where we're at. I'm glad to be nearing the end of planting for 2020, because like I said, I have got to get into the hayfield. I would like to have it up by the mid part of July as well. So nice blue sky today. I think we've had several days of wet weather, so maybe it'll be nice to get a little dry weather. We can get a 4-day window. We're going to try to mow some hay and get it down. Corn looks, I don't know whether the camera you can see it or not, but it looks pretty good. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. So yeah, it's starting to come on up. Good, hot, bright, sunny days like this. I think it's supposed to be near 80 tomorrow. That corn will come on out. It likes it hot and humid. But you know, a couple of weeks, it'll be up here. What we'll do once this corn gets up, we'll come back over it with another application of herbicide to get any weeds we missed with the pre-emergent, and then we'll be ready to go on hit. It won't be long till we'll start spraying the first planting of corn for worms, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But anyhow, that's kind of where we're at. I'm gonna load the tractor up and get on home and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. This video will probably post on Father's Day. So to all you fathers out there, happy Father's Day. Relax, do something, take care of yourself. But if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll know when we put up our video. If you see a video you like, give it a thumbs up. If you have a question or a comment, please do so. I will try to respond. I've been trying to at least go through them once a week. I do read them all. I try to respond to all of them, but some will get missed. That's part of it, but that's the way it goes. So until next time, take care of yourself. We'll talk to you later. Bye.